Hello YouTubers, part 2 of like this mini Mondeo series. We're going to concentrate on brakes now. Now this is the perfect example. If you watch some of my other videos, I tell you how the brakes look absolutely perfect on the outside and really bad on the inside. This is the perfect example of that. When you look at these brakes on the outside, the disc looks nice and shiny. There's a little lip here, but it's not too bad. There's maybe 80% left in the pads. All looks fine. There's a few problems with this car. The brake pedal doesn't particularly feel right, and the brakes aren't working great. Now what I suspect is that the pads have gone all hard. Brake discs, pads especially, even if they look good, they can still be really hard. They've gone brittle and then they don't work properly, and that's what I suspect. And the reason I suspect that is because the back of these pads is really thin, and what happens is that the disc heats up, transfers all the heat into the pads, which basically makes the pads go hard. That's what I think. I'm not 100% sure yet. That's just my initial reaction, and once I get it open I'll know for sure. But that's what I think. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to replace the pads and discs on a Mondeo. First thing you want to do on any car, well actually the first thing you want to do is take off the brake reservoir cap. That's the first thing you want to do. Next thing you want to do is turn the wheel so that the caliper is facing out. You don't have to do this, it just makes life a lot easier, because then we can get, there's a 13mm, two 13mm bolts either side of here. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get a screwdriver and I'm going to push the actual piston back first. Now there's a few ways of pushing back the piston. The way I'm going to do it on this car is use a hammer and a screwdriver, because it's not a wind back model. Now no doubt I'm going to get a bit of stick for this. Okay, and you can't do it that way. Would you know what I say to you? You can. Done it for years, never had a problem. So there you go. Now you do need to make sure that it's not a wind back piston. If it's a wind back caliper, then yes, you will do damage, so don't do it. You just need to do it on a normal push back piston. Now the downside to this is, if you do this, you do damage your brake pad. But as I'm changing my brake pad, I don't care. If I was doing something else, I needed to take this off without, because I wasn't replacing something, I wouldn't be doing it this way. Because I'm replacing it, I can do it this way. So what I'm going to do is just going to hammer this screwdriver in at the back pad. I'll try and not get in the way of the camera as I do it. Now it should go back nice and easy, which it is doing. It's not that difficult, it's going back. So I know that, well, I can't be 100% sure, but I've got a good idea that that piston isn't seized inside the caliper, which is good. Now what I want to do, you get a spanner, doesn't really matter, a socket, but basically 13mm, and you want to take off these two bolts that hold the actual caliper on. I loosen both of them first. Now that one's been rounded at the top, so that's going to be a slight problem. So I'm going to get a spanner. This is some problems with cars that people don't realise. If someone's had a go at this and they've used the wrong type of spanner or socket or something, you're going to round them, which then turns a 5-second job, could turn it into an hour, could turn it into more. Nightmare. This is a 13mm nut and this is a 13mm spanner, and it's not doing anything, as you can see. So next best thing is to try with 12mm. 12mm fits on it. Not great though, but it fits on it. I'm lucky I got away with that. Just wish people would use the right tool for the right job. It's not too bad when you can get to it like this, but some bolts that you can't get to, that are inside the engine somewhere, it's a nightmare. You turn a 5-minute job to turn into hours. So anyway, them two are off. Get my screwdriver again and just slide this piston out. Now it's a good time now, once the piston is out, once the caliper is out, is just to check it. So visually make sure it's not wet. Obviously this is wet because it's raining, but what I mean by wet is make sure it's not leaking. There's no physical signs. The rubber is all good, it's all pushed back. it's not ripped or cracked or anything like that, because again it's going to cause you problems. The piston went back nice and easy, so I know I don't have a problem with the caliper. Now, this is the back disc, and as you can see, we've loads of meat on this, and that's what I've done by banging in the screwdriver. So I've now damaged that, but like I said, I'm replacing it. Even though that looks good, I'm replacing it, because I'm doing the disc, so you have to replace the pads regardless. So now, just as I thought, this pad is really hard. Now again, it might not come across on camera, I'm going to show you the new one beside it, but I can see from my eyes it's really shiny. I can't even put my fingernails really tight against it. I'll show you the new one. Now, this is the new one. It actually feels rougher, and it's obviously still hard, don't get me wrong. I can't put a fingernail through it, but I can feel a tiny bit of give in my fingernail, and I can't feel any give in that. And as you can see from the thickness, you know, there's not that much in it, but these have gone all hard, so that I'm pretty much certain that that disc is heated up, which has made these go hard. And you see the difference there now. You want a nice rough pad, that'll give you your best braking. Now, what I meant by the front of this, let's bring it in a bit closer. Hopefully you can see that. Now, this, as you can see, look, see that? That's just pure rust that has just come off in my hand. That's part of the brake. Just absolutely rusty. Now again, if you look at these two thicknesses, it doesn't look too bad. But there's a big, huge lip on the back here. Massive lip. I'll show you once I get it off. That back part of the disc is half as thick as this part of the disc, believe it or not. I know it looks it there, but once I take it off, I'll show you exactly what I mean. And this is why when you look at the outside of it, it looks perfect, but never ever look at the outside of a disc, because it'll give you a false reading. And especially with brakes, you can't really take any risk on it. Now, might not come too clear, but basically this disc is a lot thicker than the old disc, obviously because it's new. But not only that, as you can see, there's no lip on it, again obviously because it's new, and these are both the same thicknesses. Once I get this disc off, I'll show you, you'll see a lot better what I mean. But next good thing to do, this is your brake carrier. This is called a carrier. You want to check that these pins here are nice and free. Now this one isn't. This one is nice and free. That's good. This one is seized. I can't, well, it's coming out now, but it was seized, which isn't great. To pull these out, they just pull out. The little rubber stays behind. Now, you can see the difference between these two. One looks nice and wet because it's all full of grease. This one's all dried up, all horrible and seized. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to rub, I've got a wire brush wheel on my grinder, a bench grinder. So I'm just going to rub them over with the wire brush now. I'm going to do that now and bring them back to you. Now, they're all nice and shiny, as you can see. People forget these, and they forget the importance of these. You can put new brakes on this car, new pads, new discs, new everything, and think everything is fine. If these are seized and they won't come out, that means when you brake and the brakes wear down, your caliper can't move freely. It'll either do one or two things. It'll either won't brake properly, or it'll seize on. So basically, within a few weeks, you'll be obviously smelling a very bad smell, and your disc and pads are going to be gone because they're going to be seized. So it'll be like your foot's on the brake. So these are important. It's important to always, regardless, even if both of these are free, regardless, take them off, clean them, put grease on. I'll show you what grease I put on when we put it all back together. So what I want to do next is take off the carrier. That is a 15, if I believe. Yeah. There's two bolts in the back. You can see where the socket is. Take off the carrier. Again, you don't need any fancy tools. Normal ratchet will do. A good tip is always undo both of them first. Now, doing by hand now. two bolts are off. This carrier then comes off. Good thing to do is to clean where the brakes touch with a wire brush. Just very quickly, just get them all nice and clean to allow the pad to slide on it a lot better. Do it now, because otherwise you'll forget, and it's easy to do it when it's off the car because there's no disc in between. So I've done that on both sides, nice and clean as you can see. Now the disc should come off. On some cars there's screws that hold the disc. I'll just straighten this wheel up now. On some cars there's screws that hold the disc on. Some cars there's like a ring around here, and some cars there's clips on the actual studs. So you obviously have to take them off first. This one doesn't have them. Now, as it turns out, this one's going to come off straight away by my hand. Sometimes you have to give them a bit of a tap with the hammer. But just be aware of tapping with the hammer, because the bits of crap can flake off and hit you in the eye. And it's not nice. Now, as you can see, that disc looks really nice from the front. We turn it round, however. Now, I don't know if it's coming across on camera, but that is a huge lip. That is making that disc half as thin as what it should be. And you can see all the rust that's in here. It's just pure rusty. They rust from the inside out, so they'll look fine for ages and all of a sudden just completely go on you. So that disc isn't as thick as it's showing there. That disc, I'd say, is about that thick. And what happens is, this is when you're braking, this is heating up. Now it's not heating up for it to glow. Sometimes they do, but this one isn't. It's just heating up, so there's more heat in it. So the heat can't escape quick enough because the metal isn't there to allow it to cool down. That's why they're vented. The venters let the air go through and make them cool down easier. It's called brake fade. But anyway, so, and then the heat can only go one or two places. It'll either just go off into the air or go into the pads. And so a lot of the heat is going into the pads, which has made the pads dry up and they've gone all hard, which isn't helping anything. So that's why that's happened. What we need to do now is put the new disc on. And like I said, obviously what you want to make sure is you need to line up the old disc, make sure the diameter is the same, make sure everything is the same width, height, length and everything, because otherwise you're going to be in trouble. Now on these discs there is a coating of oil front and back. That's to stop it rusting, because literally if there was no oil on this, within a couple of hours they rust. Even when you park them overnight they rust, but it's only surface rust. Once you drive down the road a few minutes it's all gone. It's not a big deal, but you wanted to get this oil off. So you use brake cleaner with a rag and just get this oil off. I'm going to do that, there's no point in me filming it because it's just taking off oil. And the stuff with brake cleaner is it evaporates, so there's no oil left behind. You can't clean this with WD-40 or anything like that, because if that gets into your pads they're never going to work properly. So brake cleaner is the only stuff you can use. So I'm going to do that and I'll turn the camera back on once that's done. Now it's been all cleaned. Obviously this is clean. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn the steering wheel again. You don't have to turn the steering wheel, it just makes it easier. Put the carrier on, slide the carrier across, line up the two bolts at the back. Now a good tip on any bolts you put in, you can screw them in a really good bit by hand first. If you start putting air guns or anything like that on them, you can cross thread them and be in a world of shit. So I'm just going to tighten them up now. And use a power bar that I have just to tighten them up. One, two. Now that's tight. So now we need to put the two pins back. But before we do that, we need to put grease on. On these pins, I don't like to use copper grease. I use CV joint grease, because copper grease is great for pads, but it's kind of gritty and it can kind of destroy the, well, not destroy them, but I just personally don't like using it. This stuff here is still designed for heat and it's top quality grease, so you know, that's personally what I like to use in it. And you just grease it up, put it back in, push it all the way down, make sure the little rubber seals over the end. As you can see now, that's moving in and out. there's a little ring right at the top, and you want the rubber just to put over there, because it means then the rubber will slide with it. This is not exposed and it won't go rusty. This was the one, if you remember, the top one that wasn't great. It was stuck. So now put that one in. Same thing again, slide it all the way in. Now, as you can see how free that is. Nice and free, exactly how you want it. Good. Now we've got the new pads. This is where I use copper grease. So I'm going to put some copper grease on the edge just first, and the reason why I do this is so it's not messy, doesn't particularly get in your way. You can put a bit of copper grease here as well if you want, but the bit on the end of the pad kind of does the same thing, so you don't really need to, but I do, but you don't particularly need to. But it's no harm. What you want to make sure is obviously you don't get it on your disc. So the first thing is then, the reason why I don't put copper grease here yet is because I'm holding it and it can just get a bit messy, so I tend to put it in. Once it's in, then put copper grease over it. And do the same again with this one. Put copper grease on the edge of it. Again, don't get it on the pad. Put it on the edge of it there. Get it the right way round. Slide it in. Now I'm going to put copper grease on this. It stops it from squealing and that. It's brilliant stuff. And it takes the heat. So just dab copper grease all in there. Now that's done. Obviously now put the caliper back. Make sure everything's back properly. Now it's in. Now with most brake pads you get new nuts. And lucky enough, I got them with this one. You get them with all of them, but depending on the motor factors, some people might have used them, they've been wrong, returned them, but not put the little nuts back. But I got two new ones, obviously, because one of mine was damaged. So, and there's lock nut on this already, so that's good. Again, screw them in by hand as far as you can go. Same again, the top one. Now obviously, now I've freed everything off, these little, the pins that I put on are now turning. I think it's a 15mm spanner, but you can just get some pliers as well and just hold the top and then spin it in at the same time. When I was taking them off I didn't need to because everything was kind of seized, so it's very difficult to do this on camera. I'm just going to use a spanner because it's going to be easier for me. Give it a nice squeeze. All I'm doing is I'm holding the top of the pin I showed you with the pliers. Like I said, a 15mm spanner will work as well. But I had this to hand, so I said I'd use this instead. Give them a good squeeze. Now done, literally. Obviously now you've got to remember you're going to have no pedal. You need to pump your pedal a few times and then you'll have pressure again. So your pedal should be nice and hard. Do that with your engine off, then start it, take it for a drive, make sure everything's working. But it's as simple as that. If you want me to see doing the other side, just wait for this video to end and press play again and you'll see it. No point in me showing you, exactly the same thing. Just bang the wheel back on and that's it, you're done. Look, hope this helps. Thumbs up the video and subscribe. Don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.